Speak Like the Rich, written and published by Rich Audiobooks. Every language has its unique dialects, and wealth has its own distinct vocabulary. Just as learning a new language opens doors to different cultures and opportunities, mastering the vocabulary of wealth unlocks pathways to financial abundance. The wealthy don't just have more money, they possess a sophisticated understanding of financial concepts and can articulate them with precision and confidence. When you listen carefully to successful investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, you'll notice they speak a different language about money. Instead of talking about saving, they discuss capital allocation. Rather than mentioning side jobs, they reference revenue streams and passive income generators. This isn't mere semantics, it reflects a fundamentally different way of thinking about and relating to money. The vocabulary of wealth encompasses terms that go beyond basic financial literacy. Words like leverage, appreciation, compound interest, and risk-adjusted returns are common in wealthy circles. These terms aren't just fancy jargon, they represent sophisticated concepts that shape how the wealthy make decisions and grow their assets. Understanding and using these terms correctly signals to others that you're financially educated and worthy of serious financial discussions and opportunities. Lesson 1. The Vocabulary of Wealth. Your financial vocabulary serves as a mirror of your financial understanding. When you expand your wealth vocabulary, you naturally begin to think more like the wealthy. You start seeing money not just as something to earn and spend, but as a tool for creating more value. You begin understanding concepts like arbitrage and equity and cash flow not as abstract terms but as practical strategies for building wealth. Learning the vocabulary of wealth also changes how others perceive and interact with you. When you can confidently discuss portfolio diversification or market volatility with understanding, you're more likely to be included in high-level financial conversations and opportunities. Your enhanced vocabulary becomes a passport to wealthier circles and more sophisticated financial discussions. Start building your wealth vocabulary today by immersing yourself in financial literature, following thought leaders in wealth creation, and studying successful investors' communication patterns. Pay attention to how they frame challenges, describe opportunities, and discuss money concepts. Make notes of unfamiliar terms and commit to understanding not just their definitions, but their practical applications in wealth building. The journey to wealth begins with learning its language. As you incorporate more sophisticated financial terms into your daily vocabulary, you'll find your thinking naturally elevating to match your new linguistic capabilities. Your expanded vocabulary will serve as both a tool set for better financial decision-making and a signal to others that you're serious about wealth creation. The language of wealth isn't just about knowing the right words, it's about embodying the mindset and understanding that these words represent. Lesson 2. Eliminate scarcity talk. The words we use when discussing money and resources act as subtle programming for our financial reality. Every time you say, "I can't afford it," "money is tight," or "that's too expensive," you're reinforcing a mindset of limitation that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. These seemingly innocent phrases create neural pathways in your brain that automatically seek evidence of financial constraint rather than opportunity. Consider how different your financial perspective might be if you replaced "I can't afford it" with "How could I make this possible?" This simple shift transforms your brain from a problem-focused state to a solution-oriented mindset. The wealthy consistently demonstrate this linguistic distinction, aha. They rarely speak in terms of what they lack, instead focusing their words on strategies and possibilities. The habit of scarcity speech often begins in childhood, picked up from well-meaning parents who unwittingly pass down their own financial anxieties through language. "Money doesn't grow on trees, we have to save every penny," and "that's not in our budget," become deeply ingrained patterns that shape our adult relationship with money. Breaking free from this inherited vocabulary requires conscious effort and awareness of how these phrases limit our financial potential. Your brain responds to the emotional weight behind your words. When you constantly verbalize financial stress and limitation, you trigger stress hormones that impair decision-making and creativity, the very faculties you need to generate wealth. The wealthy understand this connection and deliberately choose language that maintains emotional equilibrium, even when discussing challenges. Instead of saying, "This is a terrible market," they might say, "This market presents unique opportunities for those who know where to look." Complaint-centered speech is particularly damaging to wealth creation. Every complaint about prices, taxes, or economic conditions reinforces a victim mentality that wealthy people actively avoid. They recognize that focusing on factors beyond their control through negative speech patterns diminishes their ability to spot and act on opportunities. Rather than complaining about inflation, they discuss strategies for hedging against it. The transformation begins with a conscious audit of your daily financial vocabulary. Notice how often you use words like expensive, can't, debt, broke, or struggle when discussing money. These words carry an energetic weight that affects not only your own mindset, but also how others perceive your financial competence. Replace these scarcity-based expressions with language that emphasizes choice, strategy, and opportunity. Creating new speech patterns requires immersion in wealth-oriented language. Start following wealthy people on social media, read financial success literature, and engage with communities where abundance thinking is the norm. Pay attention to how successful people frame financial challenges and mirror their linguistic approaches. When they encounter a high price, they don't reflexively reject it as too expensive. They evaluate it in terms of value and return on investment. Your words shape your reality by influencing both your actions and others' responses to you. When you eliminate scarcity talk, you begin attracting people and opportunities aligned with wealth creation. Professionals, mentors, and potential partners are more likely to engage with someone who speaks the language of possibility rather than limitation. Your words signal to the world whether you operate from a position of scarcity or abundance, and the world responds accordingly. Practice replacing reactive financial statements with proactive ones. Instead of, "I'll never be able to afford that," try, "I'm working on creating the means to acquire that." Rather than, "I'm bad with money," say, "I'm learning to master wealth creation." These subtle shifts in language create profound changes in your financial trajectory by rewiring your brain's approach to money and opportunity. Lesson 3. Words that attract abundance. The language of abundance flows like a mighty river, carrying with it the seeds of prosperity and opportunity. When we consciously choose words that reflect abundance, we tune our minds to recognize and attract wealth in its many forms. This isn't about mere positive thinking. It's about rewiring our neural pathways to operate from a place of plenty rather than lack. Consider how differently these two statements feel. "I'm investing in my future" versus "I'm spending my savings." While both might describe the same action, the first phrase opens up possibilities and implies growth, while the second suggests depletion. Wealthy people instinctively understand this distinction and carefully select words that reinforce abundance rather than diminishment. The vocabulary of abundance includes powerful phrases like creating value, generating wealth, cultivating opportunities, and expanding resources. These expressions carry within them the assumption that wealth is not finite but continuously growing and available. When you begin incorporating these phrases into your daily speech, you'll notice a shift in how you approach financial decisions and opportunities. Gratitude language plays a crucial role in attracting abundance. Rather than saying, "I have to pay these bills," wealthy people might say, "I'm grateful to have the means to handle these expenses." This subtle shift transforms financial obligations from burdens into expressions of capability and abundance. The wealthy consistently express appreciation for their current resources while maintaining an expectation of continued growth. Another powerful linguistic tool is the use of expansive questions. Instead of asking, "How can I afford this?" try, "What are the creative ways I can generate the resources for this?" The first question assumes limitation, while the second opens your mind to unexpected possibilities and solutions. Your brain responds to questions by seeking answers, so asking abundance-oriented questions naturally leads to abundance-oriented solutions. The language of multiplication rather than division is particularly potent. Phrases like leveraging assets, compound growth, and exponential returns program your mind to seek opportunities for expansion rather than mere preservation. When discussing money, successful people often use words that imply multiplication: increasing, growing, amplifying, and scaling. Time language also plays a crucial role in attracting abundance. Using phrases like "when I achieve" rather than "if I achieve" creates a psychological commitment to success. The wealthy speak about future abundance as an inevitability rather than a possibility, using phrases like "as my wealth grows" and "when my investments mature." Perhaps most importantly, the language of abundance must be authentic and aligned with action. Empty phrases without corresponding behavior create cognitive dissonance that undermines their power. When you say, "I attract abundant opportunities," ensure you're positioning yourself to receive them through concrete steps and decisions. The art of speaking abundance extends beyond financial matters into all areas of life. Recognizing abundance in relationships, health, knowledge, and experiences creates a comprehensive prosperity mindset that naturally extends to monetary wealth. When you can genuinely say, "I have more than enough time, energy, and resources," you create a foundation for attracting even greater abundance. Begin consciously replacing scarcity-based expressions with abundance-oriented alternatives in your daily conversations. Notice how "I can't miss this opportunity" becomes "I choose to pursue this opportunity," and "I hope I can" transforms into "I know I will." These linguistic shifts might feel uncomfortable at first, but with practice they become your natural way of expressing yourself, creating a powerful attractor field for wealth and prosperity. Lesson 4. Speak success into your future. The words you speak about your future become the architects of your reality. Wealthy people understand this profound truth and deliberately craft their speech to reflect not where they are, but where they're headed. This isn't mere positive thinking, it's a strategic approach to programming both your conscious and subconscious mind for success. When you examine how successful people discuss their futures, you'll notice they speak with unwavering certainty. They don't say, "I hope to" or "I'll try to." They declare, "I will" and "I am." This subtle but powerful distinction creates a psychological framework that propels them toward their stated outcomes. Their brains begin working overtime to align their actions with their declarations, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of success. Science behind future-focused VCA reveals that our brains can't effectively distinguish between vividly imagined scenarios and reality. When you consistently verbalize your future success with specific, sensory-rich language, your neural pathways begin to form as if these achievements have already occurred. This is why wealthy people speak about their goals with such precise detail. They're literally rewiring their brains for success. Consider the difference between saying, "I want to be financially independent," versus, "I am building a $5 million 0-cents investment portfolio that generates $200,000 0 cents in annual passive income by December 2025. The second statement engages your brain's problem-solving capabilities, triggers creative solutions, and creates a clear target for your subconscious mind to work toward. This level of specificity in future-focused speech is a hallmark of those who consistently achieve their financial goals. Chapel-Fo's expression. Successful people also understand the importance of timing in their speech patterns. They discuss future achievements in the present tense, creating what linguists call a present-future reality. Instead of saying, "I will own a successful business," they declare, "I am building a successful business." This grammatical shift does more than motivate. It creates immediate ownership of the journey and instills a sense of current progress rather than distant possibility. The wealthy also employ what's known as success scaffolding in their speech. They build verbal bridges between their current reality and their desired future. They might say, "As I expand my client base to 100 premium customers," rather than, "if I can get more clients." This linguistic structure assumes success while acknowledging the process, creating a mental environment where progress feels natural and inevitable. Your declaration of future success must also incorporate what behavioral psychologists call identity-based language. Rather than focusing solely on having or achieving, speak in terms of being and becoming. "I am developing the skills of a 7-figure entrepreneur" carries more transformative power than "I want to make 7 figures." This type of speech shapes your self-image and aligns your identity with your financial goals. The practice of speaking success requires courage and conviction, especially when current circumstances don't yet reflect your declarations. Wealthy people understand that verbal commitment precedes visible results. They maintain their success-oriented speech even in the face of temporary setbacks, knowing that consistent, future-focused language helps maintain the momentum and resilience necessary for long-term achievement. Start incorporating these elements into your daily speech patterns. Create detailed declarations of your future success, speak them in the present tense, and align them with your evolving identity. Practice describing your goals with the same certainty you'd use to describe historical facts. Every word you speak about your future is either constructing or constraining your path to wealth. Choose language that builds bridges to your desired outcomes. and speak as if your success is not just possible but inevitable. Lesson 5. Rich conversations, rich connections. The way wealthy people converse differs markedly from casual social chatter. Their conversations carry purpose, depth, and an underlying current of mutual value creation. When you listen closely to successful people interact, you'll notice they rarely engage in meaningless small talk or gossip. Instead, they master the art of meaningful dialogue that builds lasting, prosperous relationships. Wealthy people approach conversations as opportunities for growth and collaboration. They ask penetrating questions that reveal insights, challenges, and possibilities. Rather than dominating discussions with personal stories, they demonstrate genuine curiosity about others' experiences and perspectives. Questions like, "What are you most excited about in your industry right now?" or "What's the biggest challenge you're working to solve?" open doors to substantive exchanges that can lead to valuable partnerships. The language of wealth creation often emerges naturally in these conversations, but not in a boastful or aggressive manner. Successful people discuss opportunities, innovations, and solutions. They share resources, make introductions, and explore ways to leverage each other's strengths. Their conversations focus on creation rather than consumption, on building rather than criticizing, on solving rather than complaining. A crucial element of wealthy conversation is the ability to speak the language of various professional circles. This means understanding industry terminology, current market trends, and the specific challenges facing different sectors. When you can engage meaningfully with people from diverse professional backgrounds, you multiply your opportunities for valuable connections and insights. The wealthy also master the art of strategic vulnerability. They share their challenges and failures not as complaints, but as learning experiences that others can benefit from. This creates authentic connections and demonstrates emotional intelligence, a trait highly valued in high net worth circles. They understand that showing genuine humanity while maintaining professional composure builds trust faster than any attempt at perfection. Time management reflects clearly in wealthy conversations. Notice how successful people rarely let discussions meander aimlessly. They guide conversations toward productive outcomes while maintaining natural flow and engagement. They excel at articulating clear next steps and establishing specific follow-up plans, ensuring that valuable connections translate into tangible opportunities. Digital communication receives the same level of attention and intention. Wealthy people craft emails and messages that respect recipients' time while clearly conveying value. They understand that every written word represents their personal brand and approach digital conversations with the same purposefulness as face-to-face interactions. Perhaps most importantly, wealthy people master the art of listening. They understand that the most valuable information often comes from what isn't explicitly said. They pick up on subtle cues, underlying concerns, and unspoken opportunities. This deep listening ability allows them to respond with relevant insights and solutions that strengthen professional relationships. Your path to wealth begins with upgrading the quality of your daily conversations. Start approaching each interaction as an opportunity to create value, learn something new, or forge a meaningful connection. Pay attention to how you present ideas, ask questions, and respond to others. Every conversation has the potential to open doors to new opportunities, but only if you engage with purpose, authenticity, and a genuine desire to create mutual benefit. Transform your communication style by eliminating phrases that diminish your authority or undermine your expertise. Replace "I think" with "I believe," "kind of" with clear statements, and "just checking in" with specific value-driven purposes for your communication. These subtle shifts in language signal confidence and competence to those you engage with, especially in professional settings. Lesson 6. Affirmations the wealthy actually use. The truth about wealth-building affirmations might surprise you. While popular culture promotes magical thinking and unrealistic mantras, genuine wealthy people approach affirmations quite differently. They understand that effective affirmations aren't about wishful thinking. They're strategic declarations that drive specific actions and reinforce productive behaviors. Wealthy people rarely stand in front of mirrors chanting, "I am rich," or "money flows to me effortlessly." Instead, they use precise, action-oriented statements that challenge them to grow. A real estate investor might affirm, "I evaluate 3 potential properties every week. while a business owner could declare, I make decisions based on long-term value, not short-term comfort. These affirmations serve as personal accountability standards rather than magical incantations. The timing and context of these affirmations matter significantly. Many successful people incorporate them into their morning routines, not as isolated exercises, but as part of their strategic planning. They might review their affirmations while examining their goals, updating their task lists, or preparing for important meetings. This integration ensures that affirmations remain connected to concrete actions rather than floating as abstract hopes. The language wealthy people use in their affirmations tends to be present tense and specific. Rather than saying, I will be debt-free, they might affirm, I make strategic decisions that reduce my debt by 10% each quarter. This specificity creates clear metrics and actionable steps. It's worth noting that wealthy people often include affirmations about their character and decision-making processes, not just their financial goals. Statements like, I make decisions based on data, not emotion, or I seek expertise when I encounter knowledge gaps, reflect this approach. Simple people also understand the power of identity-based affirmations. Instead of focusing solely on having or achieving, they emphasize being. I am someone who invests in assets that appreciate, carries more weight than I want to make good investments. This subtle shift moves the focus from external acquisitions to internal transformations, which ultimately drive sustainable wealth creation. The wealthy regularly update and evolve their affirmations as their circumstances change. What served them when building their first million may not apply when managing 10 million. They view affirmations as living documents that grow with their experience and ambition. A novice investor might affirm, I learn something valuable from every investment decision, while a seasoned investor might declare, I identify market patterns others overlook. Perhaps most importantly, wealthy people use affirmations that acknowledge the role of other people in their success. Statements like, I build and maintain relationships that create mutual value, or I surround myself with people who elevate my thinking, reflect their understanding that wealth rarely grows in isolation. These relationship-focused affirmations guide them to create and nurture valuable connections. The most powerful affirmations used by the wealthy often center on problem-solving and opportunity recognition. I find solutions where others see obstacles, and I transform challenges into profitable opportunities represent the mindset that drives wealth creation. These statements program the brain to actively seek out and capitalize on situations that others might avoid or overlook. Wealthy people treat affirmations as serious tools for mental conditioning, not magical shortcuts. They choose words that reflect their values, challenge their limitations, and direct their focus toward productive activities. By studying and adapting their approach, you can create affirmations that genuinely support your wealth-building journey, rather than merely offering temporary emotional comfort. Lesson 7. Stop speaking limits, start declaring possibility. Part 1. Every word you speak draws a line in the sand. It either expands your potential or creates a barrier to your success. The wealthy have mastered the art of possibility-focused language, understanding that the words they choose literally shape the opportunities they see and seize. Let's examine how most people unknowingly limit themselves through language. Phrases like, I could never afford that, that's not realistic, or someone like me can't do that, aren't just harmless expressions. They're architectural blueprints for limitation. Each time you voice these thoughts, you're constructing walls around your potential, reinforcing neural pathways that make you blind to opportunities. The wealthy approach language differently. Instead of saying, I can't, they ask, how can I? Rather than declaring something impossible, they inquire about what would make it possible. This slight shift transforms obstacles from roadblocks into puzzles waiting to be solved. When faced with a $1 million 0-cents business opportunity, the average person might say, that's too expensive. A wealth-minded individual asks, what creative financing options could make this work? Your brain operates like a sophisticated search engine, constantly scanning for evidence to support your verbal declarations. When you state, I'm not good with money, your mind dutifully collects proof of your financial inadequacy. However, when you declare, I'm learning to master wealth creation, your brain begins noticing resources, mentors, and opportunities that support this new narrative. The language of possibility isn't about blind optimism, it's about opening mental doorways to solutions. Instead of saying, this market is too competitive, try, What unique value can I bring to this market? Rather than, I don't have enough experience, shift to, what experience can I gain starting today? These questions activate your brain's problem-solving capabilities rather than its defense mechanisms. Imagination and creativity flourish in the soil of possibility-focused language. The wealthy understand that breakthroughs often come from challenging assumed limitations. Questions like, what if we approach this differently? Or, how might we revolutionize this industry? Create mental space for revolutionary ideas to emerge. Every major business innovation started with someone refusing to accept the limiting language of, that's how it's always been done. Transform your I wish statements into I will declarations backed by specific actions. Instead of, I wish I could start a business, say, I will launch my business by completing these specific steps. This shift moves you from the realm of fantasy into the domain of strategic action. The wealthy don't wish, they decide and declare. Your possibility declaration framework begins with awareness. Notice when you use limiting language and immediately reframe it. Create a personal lexicon of possibility phrases that resonate with your goals. Practice using these new linguistic patterns until they become natural. Share your aspirations with clarity and conviction, understanding that your words are laying the foundation for your future reality. The language of possibility isn't about denying challenges, it's about approaching them with a solution-oriented mindset. When you encounter obstacles, frame them as opportunities for growth and innovation. This is difficult becomes, this is teaching me valuable lessons. I don't know how goes to a lighted do. This is teaching me valuable lessons. I'm excited to figure this out. By consciously choosing words that expand rather than contract your possibilities, you align your speech with the thought patterns of the wealthy. Your language becomes a tool for transformation, opening doors that seemed permanently closed and revealing pathways to prosperity that were previously invisible. The wealth you seek begins with the words you speak today. Lesson 8. Language that commands respect and opportunity. The way you speak doesn't just convey information, it broadcasts your perceived value to the world. When you master the language patterns that command respect, you naturally attract opportunities that others might miss. This dynamic occurs because authoritative speech creates a presence that opens doors and influences decisions. The wealthy understand that certain words and phrases carry more weight than others. Instead of saying, I think we should, they declare, here's what needs to happen. Rather than asking, could we possibly, they state, let's move forward with. These subtle shifts transform tentative suggestions into confident directives that others naturally want to follow. Authority language isn't about being aggressive or domineering, it's about speaking with clarity and conviction. When you replace hedge words like maybe, sort of, or kind of with direct statements, you demonstrate certainty in your capabilities. I'm working on becoming better at investing becomes, I'm developing my investment portfolio. The first version sounds apologetic, the second commands respect. Professional settings particularly demand this type of commanding language. In meetings, wealthy people don't just want to mention something, they bring attention to critical matters. They don't have a quick question, they seek clarification on specific points. Each phrase is deliberately chosen to position them as equals in any conversation, regardless of the other person's status or wealth. Your email communication also shapes how others perceive your value. Wealthy people craft messages that reflect their time's worth. They don't write lengthy apologetic explanations or excessive pleasantries. Their messages are clear, direct, and action-oriented. I wanted to check if perhaps you might have time to meet becomes, let's schedule a 30-minute discussion about. The language of opportunity often involves strategic silence as much as careful speech. Wealthy people know when to hold back information and when to speak up. They don't feel compelled to fill every silence or explain every decision. This measured approach to communication creates an aura of authority that attracts opportunities rather than chasing them. Body language and tone work in concert with word choice to command respect. A steady, modulated voice paired with intentional pacing signals confidence and competence. Wealthy people speak as if they expect to be heard not because they're entitled, but because they've earned the right to contribute value to the conversation. Your ability to articulate value propositions directly impacts your earning potential. Instead of saying, "I help people with their computers," a wealthy person might say, "I optimize business operations through strategic technology implementation." The second version commands higher fees because it communicates deeper value and expertise. The language of opportunity also involves asking high-value questions. Rather than, "Can I help you?" wealthy people ask, "What's the biggest challenge you're facing in your industry right now?" These questions demonstrate strategic thinking and position you as a peer rather than a subordinate. Commanding language must be backed by genuine value and integrity. Empty words, no matter how authoritative, quickly reveal themselves as hollow. The wealthy build their commanding presence on a foundation of actual capability, using language that accurately reflects their ability to deliver results. Start paying attention to how respected leaders in your field speak. Notice their word choices, their tone, and their timing. Begin incorporating these elements into your own communication style, always ensuring your enhanced language aligns with your growing expertise and value contribution. As your command of authoritative language grows, you'll find doors opening more easily and opportunities presenting themselves more frequently. Lesson 9. The silent power behind confident words. Words carry power, but the spaces between them often hold even greater influence. The wealthy understand that confidence in communication isn't just about what you say, it's about mastering the unseen elements that give your words their true impact. These silent forces shape how others perceive, receive, and respond to your message. The foundation of confident speech lies in the pause. When wealthy people speak, they embrace strategic silence, allowing their words to land with maximum effect. This isn't about dramatic pauses for theatrical effect. It's about giving your thoughts the space they deserve. Consider how rushed speech often signals insecurity, while measured delivery commands attention and respect. Your breathing pattern fundamentally affects how your words emerge. The wealthy practice controlled breathing, which creates a natural rhythm in their speech. This rhythm doesn't just make you sound more authoritative, it actually helps you think more clearly and maintain emotional equilibrium during high-stakes conversations. When you breathe properly, your voice resonates from your diaphragm rather than your throat, producing a tone that others instinctively trust. Body language amplifies or diminishes your words' impact. The wealthy maintain what communication experts call aligned congruence, where their physical presence perfectly matches their verbal message. This includes maintaining steady eye contact, using purposeful gestures, and adopting an open posture that invites connection. When your nonverbal cues align with your words, your message becomes exponentially more powerful. The timing of your words matters as much as their content. Wealthy people develop an intuitive sense of when to speak and when to listen. They recognize that rushing to fill silence often leads to missed opportunities and diluted impact. By waiting for the right moment, their contributions carry more weight and demonstrate emotional intelligence that opens doors to greater opportunities. Voice modulation is another silent power that the wealthy master. They understand that varying their pitch, pace, and volume creates engagement and holds attention. A monotone delivery, regardless of content, suggests disinterest or lack of conviction. The wealthy use their vocal range like an instrument, creating subtle variations that keep listeners engaged and emphasize key points without obvious effort. The energy behind your words shapes their reception. Wealthy people maintain what could be called a prosperity frequency, an underlying vitality that makes their words resonate with possibility and potential. This energy isn't about being loud or dominant, it's about maintaining an internal state of certainty that naturally infuses their communication with authority. Perhaps most importantly, the wealthy understand the power of listening silence. They know that active listening, truly focusing on understanding rather than waiting to speak, creates deep connections and reveals valuable insights. This type of silence demonstrates respect, builds trust, and often leads to opportunities that would be missed in a more talk-dominated interaction. Mastering these silent elements requires practice and awareness. Start by recording yourself in important conversations and analyzing not just what you say, but how you say it. Notice your breathing patterns, the spaces between your words, and the energy you bring to each interaction. Pay attention to how others respond when you consciously incorporate these elements into your communication. The wealthy know that confidence in communication isn't something you display, it's something you embody. When you align your silent power with your spoken words, You create a presence that naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and connections. This alignment becomes your signature way of being, transforming every interaction into a potential pathway to greater prosperity. Lesson 10. Make wealth your native tongue. Learning to speak the language of wealth is similar to mastering a foreign language. It requires immersion, practice, and a willingness to make mistakes along the way. The truly wealthy have internalized this language so deeply that it flows naturally, without conscious effort. This final chapter explores how to make the vocabulary, mindset, and communication patterns of wealth your default mode of expression. The journey to financial fluency begins with understanding that wealth speak isn't just about using certain words or phrases. It's about rewiring your entire relationship with money through language. When you first learn a new language, you think in your native tongue and translate. Similarly, many people still think in scarcity and try to translate into abundance. True mastery comes when you begin thinking directly in the language of wealth. Consider how children acquire language naturally through constant exposure and practice. They don't learn through memorization, but through living the language daily. Apply this same principle to wealth communication by surrounding yourself with wealth-oriented conversations, content, and communities. Listen to how successful people speak about money, business, and opportunity. Notice their casual conversations, their social media posts, their interviews. This immersion helps wealth language become your natural way of expressing yourself. Your internal dialogue is perhaps the most crucial aspect of making wealth your native tongue. The wealthy maintain an ongoing internal conversation about growth, opportunity, and abundance. They don't have to remind themselves to think positively about money. It's their default setting. This internal fluency then naturally flows into external expression, creating a powerful feedback loop that reinforces wealth-building behaviors and attitudes. Making wealth your native tongue also means developing an instinctive aversion to poverty language, much like how native speakers can immediately detect grammatical errors. When you hear limiting beliefs or scarcity-based expressions, they should feel foreign and uncomfortable. This natural resistance helps maintain the integrity of your wealth mindset and prevents backsliding into old patterns of thinking and speaking. Beyond just personal expression, true fluency in wealth language means being able to adapt your communication style to different financial contexts. Just as a bilingual person can switch effortlessly between languages, you should be able to discuss wealth concepts with both sophisticated investors and financial newcomers. This versatility marks you as someone who truly understands and lives the principles of wealth creation. The ultimate goal is to reach a point where wealth-oriented communication becomes as natural as breathing. This doesn't mean becoming obsessed with money talk, but rather developing an effortless ability to engage with financial concepts and opportunities in a positive, confident manner. When wealth becomes your native tongue, you'll find yourself naturally attracting like-minded people and opportunities that align with your financial aspirations. Language mastery requires patience and consistent practice. There will be moments of awkwardness as you transition from your old patterns of speech to new ones. Embrace these moments as signs of growth rather than viewing them as setbacks. Each day, push yourself to engage in conversations that stretch your wealth vocabulary and challenge your communication comfort zone. Your transformation is complete when you no longer need to consciously monitor your language choices around money and success. When your natural way of speaking aligns perfectly with your financial goals and aspirations, you've truly made wealth your native tongue. This fluency becomes a powerful force that shapes your reality, influences those around you, and creates a legacy of abundance that extends far beyond mere words.